They say it's addictive once you start. Twitter, that is. So we decided to take a look at what our politicians have been sharing on the Twitter sphere. Who knew about Gerry Adams' love for a rubber duck and a bear called Ted?
'Cause now you're no one if you're not on Twitter. And if you aren't there already, you've missed it. If you haven't been bookmarked, retweeted and blocked, you might as well not have existed. Oh yes, you might as well not have existed. Twitter.
Well, with me now is a man who tweets more than most and who also keeps a close eye on the local political scene, Alan Mabin, better known to his Twitter followers, of course, as @Alan in Belfast. Alan, welcome to you. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme. I think we've all collectively been rather fascinated with Gerry Adams' recent entry onto the Twitter stage. He has revealed a lot about himself, perhaps in respects that people didn't expect. Were you surprised by some of what he's talked about in such a public way?
Certainly. You expect to see a little bit about a politician's private life if they're going to be on Twitter sometimes, but you really didn't expect to find out about his bath time habits and the yellow duck. We didn't expect to know about his teddy bear, Snowy the dog. It's a kind of a whimsical set of kind of scenarios that he's putting out, along with the odd tweet about actually meetings he's going to and kind of party events and so on. But it's quite a fascinating insight into a very senior politician and a figure who's has quite a lot of notoriety around this island.
And do you think, Alan, that is because he is in a very calculated fashion trying to show a human side to his political persona, or is that the real Gerry Adams and that's just the way that he is and it's not calculated at all?
He's not a man that I've ever met and had a conversation with, but his other online kind of persona in terms of his blog is a little whimsical. It's certainly based around characters and stories rather than policy. So this is quite consistent with that. On the other hand, he does appear to be a man who's quite intentional about what he does. I would be surprised that he isn't thinking through what he's doing. And at the back of my head, I start to wonder about his legacy. Is he kind of retweeting his legacy and actually changing how people will perceive him as he heads towards perhaps the twilight of his political career?
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is that in a very short period of time, a huge number of people are very interested in what he has to say. He's only been on Twitter for a couple of weeks. He's now got 14,000 followers or thereabouts.
Well,
that's an awful lot of people, believe me, 14,000. I wish I had 14,000 followers. Peter Robinson's been on Twitter for a couple of years. He's followed by 9,000. Micheál Martin, the leader of Fianna Fáil, has just over 5,000 followers. So you can see that he has caught the zeitgeist as far as a lot of people on Twitter are concerned.
It'll be interesting to see how that kind of trend goes. I mean, at the moment, there's a lot of talk about it. A lot of the kind of Irish newspapers have been writing about it. We're talking about it here. Very serious subjects, and now we're kind of onto the whimsical. So I think people are interested in following what's there.
He's taken a lot of stick for it, hasn't he? I mean, a lot of people have been poking fun at him in the papers.
I think if I blogged about teddy bears and rubber ducks in the bath, I would expect to take quite a lot of stick for it as well. And somebody in his position, you'd imagine would be looking for gravitas. He's the president of a party, he's a TD, and we're not really discovering about an All-Ireland project, we're not discovering about policy, we're discovering about his private life, which actually isn't maybe the kind of thing that people would expect to find out.
And some of his party colleagues, of course, are ferocious Twitters, and we've talked to some of them on this programme before, tweeters, I should say, some of those who are very active up at Stormont. I mean, who else do you follow? Who else do you think is enormously insightful into the political process, or who else has a quirky take on political happenings?
I think there's relatively little insight into actual policy. 140 characters, you'll neither win a vote nor convince somebody of a policy. But there are politicians, people, I mean, Niall O'Donoghue from Sinn Féin has been on Twitter for a very long time, would go out of his way to proactively talk to people, answer back. If people raise a question, he'll actually kind of butt into the conversation and join. People like even Councillor John Kyle was at an event on Monday night for a Platform for Change, talking about flags. 9 politicians on the stage. 2 of them afterwards were actually talking to people who were in the audience or talking to people who were listening back at home. That's quite a good way of using it. And yet, I still feel that Twitter is somewhere where actually we're not going to get kind of big change, but you may actually learn a little bit more about the kind of personality, the kind of person, what turns them on.
Well, it's fascinating, and lest anybody be in any doubt, it is absolutely addictive, isn't it?